welcome to episode 71. Hope all is well where you are. This is the Endless Backlog Podcast, your number one amateur hour podcast hosted by me. The guy can keep saying, joining me is Al Josa. One of you better stop typing.
Hello, guys. What's up?
William Berger.
Hey, gents. How's it going?
Oh, Adam Wazdovich.
Hello, everybody.
How's it going, gents? How's the day treating you?
Good. Weather is garbage. You're like, what is this? March, April?
Yeah, no, it's been inconsistent all week over here in New York. It's been like, we had a random day. Sunday was like just hot for no reason.
Sunday's actually one of the the colder ones here. Surprisingly,
it's proper December weather at this point around Wisconsin, Minnesota.
The last couple weeks in New York have been weird, and then coming home to Florida, it's like, oh yeah, it's summer all the time.
Yeah. Like,
you put on a jacket to go outside, and you're like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I don't need
Tourists
this.
are going to think crazy things like New York has inconsistent weather. It's like, no. We get cold as fuck in December. That's what happens. Right now it hasn't been cold as fuck. Like, it'll be cold at night. But it's like 30 degrees, which isn't even really that cold. Like,
it gets in the 30s in Florida in the evening.
Yeah. It's supposed to be
people
like...
must freeze to death down there.
Like, you know... We're supposed to be within range of starting to get snow. It's supposed to be cold every freaking day. You forget ever feeling warm. Like, I've gone to work, the restaurant job after I get off the train and just not put on my hoodie or a jacket because I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's not that serious. So, it's been odd. But we're not going to talk about the weather. We're going to do what every other gaming website on the planet is suddenly doing. Let's talk about Star Wars. As in not the fucking video games, as in the fucking movie that just came out, right?
Right.
I joke, but we probably will end up talking about it, because, you know. I was worried the whole time when Wazzy's like, yeah, I'm ready to podcast. I'm like, fuck. We're going to wait 40 minutes arguing on whether or not Rey is this exceptional character or whatever the fuck.
She's awesome, yo.
She's amazing.
I have thoughts on this.
She's okay, but anyway, I thought the movie was.
All the thoughts.
I thought, this is, you know, I think the movie was fun. Like, don't get me wrong. If you have any like soft spot for Star Wars, that movie will speak to that like piece of your heart a little bit, especially like when the X-wings come in, the music kicks in.
If you had any soft spot for Star Wars, you've already seen it.
Yeah, that's true. Of course. So, you know. I mean, if you got a soft spot for Star Wars, you know, you were probably entertained during the prequels, let's be honest. I mean, I think those movies are bad, but at the same time, I'll never say...
Everyone thinks they're bad, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm entertained during them, but they're...
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm entertained. I still thought Darth Maul was cool. I was still mildly into Anakin's turn, even though it ultimately ended up at he had a bad dream, so he became Darth Vader.
No.
Yeah, yes. The lightsaber.
That dude became evil just to protect Padme, yo. That's the ultimate whip train. Because what's his face told him that he can like protect her if he goes to the dark side, yo. God damn.
Well, the idea is supposed to be Lucas's idea was that it was still meant to be tragic when it happens. You're not supposed to, you know, feel like he went pure evil and like. You know, it makes the original trilogy sort of a redemption arc for Darth Vader, because at the end, it's not Luke who kills the Emperor, it's Darth Vader, right?
Yeah. Spoilers.
I mean, and that...
Spoiler for Return of the Jedi!
Yep.
32 years old this year. I mean, but, like, the original
trilogy... I mean, the movies just... The prequel trilogies are just so fucking bad, though.
It's amazing, like, I've gone through... just as like a filmic exercise for like screenplays. And if you go through the prequels and like pick out the plot points and like the overarching plot, if you just explain it as you would a normal plot, it's actually not bad. Yeah. It's just the execution. Like it's amazing how close those are to being good movies.
Yeah, if you ever listen to and he's probably one of the more mouthy screenwriters. All because he made one video about Superman, by the way. Max Landis. Like, that guy tends to be in a lot of interviews about screenwriting. He tells you can have the coolest idea on paper, plot-wise, but then you can have shitty screenplay. In other cases, you can have a really good screenplay, but, you know, the director can't really make it work as a movie, right? Like,
Right.
certain things only work as a pitch, certain things only work on paper. And, you know, in the case of gaming, we see that. Sometimes you see a game idea, and it's like, no, that's going to be a badass game, because look at all this it's going to do. And then the game comes out, and you're like, oh, take for instance, what if you made a shooter where melee combat had more of an impact, and it was like this kung fu style thing, and it would be third person. It's like, wow, that would actually be kind of interesting, because it would be like these, it wouldn't necessarily be conflicting, you just make the shooting part of like just a ranged thing, and you can make cool combos out of it, except you have Enter the Matrix, Oni, and now Devil's Third pointing out that, oh, that adds up to a bad game still. We're 0-3 on that department. You know what I mean?
Or you can have a really stupid idea, like cars hitting big balls into nets.
And people like Oni, though? Wasn't that the Bungie game?
Yeah, but
Yeah, I don't think
It's-
people really liked it that much.
I never played it, so I don't know.
I mean,
It's not hated the way that Devil's Third, and
and people like Enter the Matrix. That's not front. That movie, that game
Matrix
sold.
is fun because it's not an absolutely awful game.
Yeah, but it's
which
not
is
good.
a breath
either,
of fresh air for a movie title,
Yeah.
but it's still not a very good
Yeah,
game.
but it's like
Especially
that-
The
yeah.
much better Max Payne series
Yeah.
is doing basically what Enter the Matrix wants to do.
It wasn't even just
1,000 times better.
Max Payne. It was more like Enter the Matrix is a game that made sense in an era that had games like Dead to Rights and Dead to Rights 2. You know what I mean?
And
So
50 cents bulletproof.
and 50 cents bulletproof. You know,
Best
back
game ever made.
back when middle tier games were a thing on consoles more frequently. But you know, Devil's Third. I mean, whatever. It had the right guy behind it, not the best development cycle. But the point is, there are certain ideas that are just better ideas until proven otherwise. So that makes sense. Otherwise, like, it's not like the heart wasn't in the right place with the prequels. It's just they were overproduced in certain ways, overdone on the CGI.
Yo, all about that fucking
Terrible
trade
casting.
route politics, yo.
Yeah.
Terribly
I've
casted,
said it
like-
debates.
People complain about the dialogue in those movies, and I'm like, they've always had iffy dialogue. Like, I would never characterize Star Wars as like, we're all gonna point out like notable quotes like, I am your father, search your feelings, you'll know it to be true. I know, when Han Solo
I think
told,
I
love
think you
you.
can just kind of exclude
Search
Jedi
your heart, nerd. Get it right.
because not Jedi, Empire, because Lawrence Kasdan writes good dialogue.
I don't know.
I would say Empire's actually all around just a
Empire's like the best movie.
legitimately
Yeah.
great movie.
Yeah.
A New Hope and Return of the Jedi were both more very kind of average. With
I
A New
don't
Hope-
know. I think New Hope
with
is.
the whole
I think
thing-
New Hope is actually as good as Empire. I think it's not appreciated for how good it is sometimes.
New Hope is great. It's just the dialogue is not as strong. Although that movie is
Yeah.
funnier than it has.
Yeah,
in the
but like at the same time, I feel like New Hope has a better pace, whereas Empire, killer opening, memorable ending. That middle stretch is kind of boring.
Not boring. It's an incredibly
No, the
important
part
to the
where Luke,
mythos of the
no.
Force.
It's important when Luke is with Yoda, but the part when Han and Leia are trying to just escape, that whole stretch, and they're inside that asteroid mouth thing, it's like, just come on.
I'm not a big fan of New Hope.
Yeah, New Hope I really like because it's all about Luke, well, the whole trilogy is about Luke eventually, which Luke I feel like is, again, another thing that's like, so it's sort of remembered as like, oh no, he's just a cheesy character. It's like, no, you need to remember Luke Skywalker. He starts off being in awe of wanting to buy like a speeder bike thing, right? In the beginning of New Hope, he's pathetic all the way through, and by the end of that trilogy, he ends up on a ship with Darth Vader, hands behind his back, and he's basically, Darth Vader's trying to threaten him, saying he's going to turn dark side. Luke's like, no, that's not going to happen.
But Luke never did get those power converters from Tashi Station.
I mean,
Luke,
whatever,
that
though.
goddamn cuck.
Yeah,
Luke
whatever.
has a really great character arc.
Yeah, that's one of the better examples of character development.
Super
the best character, obviously, in the entirety of all 6 Star Wars movies, well, now 7, is R2-D2. He's just the most thought-provoking lines,
Wow.
just amazingly well acted.
That
Just
dialogue, though.
That
so
dialogue,
good.
though.
The beeps and those boops, so
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
good.
So anyway, I think all 4 of us came out entertained by The Force Awakens. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very much so.
I think, for me, I think Abrams is fine as a director. I think he's got a really good handle on scale. The one thing I don't like a lot in his movies is usually he has a tendency to go for the shaky cam route for like close quarters combat, right? I fucking hate shaky cam. I hate.
Was there shaky cam in that movie? I didn't know.
No, not in Star Wars. That's what I'm saying.
Not Star Wars.
There's in the 2 Star Trek movies.
I haven't seen those.
Yeah. I mean,
they're good.
They're alright.
They're entertaining. It's just watching Star Trek when they had this height, which is Star Trek: The Next Generation with Patrick Stewart, and it's like this really well-made drama that shits on so many other works of science fiction. To end up at a fucking summer blockbuster is like a little disheartening.
True.
And I'm not a Trekkie by any stretch of the imagination. I recently saw Star Trek: The Next Generation after years of saying Star Trek is lame. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, the show's actually like absurdly fucking fantastic.
You know, it's really hard to watch though if you've never really watched the series. I tried starting with OT Star Trek, and it's just
it's too cheese.
It's pretty bad.
It's just like I get it at the time when it came out. It must have been the best, but now it's just like
I mean, it's ahead of its curve when you think about it. There's a lot of you need to look up like what the go read a stupid list of the greatest episodes of OG Star Trek and watch those episodes specifically because there's a few that have like really exciting scenes, and when you think about it, it's like they fucking did this show in the fucking 60s.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty cool that
it's an impressive
Star
show.
Trek was a blockbuster film.
I mean, it's fine. It's just, I didn't want it to come at, like, the expense of the hard science and the more interesting political stuff.
To be fair, Star Trek has been moving that. Like, Wrath of Khan is a blockbuster movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that series has always been kind of moving that way, and probably thanks in large part to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, they don't have anything.
I mean, the thing is, like, it's like there's, Star Trek is always been the bigger movie franchise.
I just think it has more to do with like the stereotype of the geek and nerd is kind of like popular and in vogue right now.
Yeah,
I was gonna say it's more like the general nature of blockbusters because people assume that it's easier to sell the blockbuster than the smarter thing.
Yeah,
and there's a degree of truth to it, right?
But it is. It's hard to sell marketing. But it's hard to sell a real big thinking movie at this.
Oh, if you can't sell in theaters, Stewart,
if you're going for like the long term build up a really good following, with Blu-rays and subsequent other material, you can do something much more thought provoking. But if you're trying to do box office revenue, then you're just gonna need to throw off a thinking cap for a while and watch Kirk punch some fools in the face for a while.
Yeah.
So like Captain Kirk or what's the other guy? Picard?
Yeah, Picard.
Who's better?
Picard. Without,
yeah.
I don't even think it's close. Like, whatever. Kirk is obviously the cultural icon, right? Because he has to be, right? But Picard is one of the best science fiction characters. Like, I'll say that, hands down. It's not insulting when you put him in, like, a top 10 characters list or something. Maybe even television.
Kirk is more like adventure-y stuff, but if you had to be on a ship like that, Picard is the guy you'd want in command.
Yeah. Kirk is Peyton Manning. No, that's not true. Kirk is, I got this. Kirk is Ben Roethlisberger. In that, he's not traditional in the way he runs his offense. He makes a lot of big plays out of broken plays. It's a little backyard football. And sometimes that wins you big, right? But every now and then it gets you into shitty spots you don't want to be.
And it crashes the
Picard is absolutely Tom Brady. He's gonna be the guy who handles the tough situation. Picard is likely to land an airplane that's about to go down. Kirk, bullshit will happen and he'll somehow land a plane. It's a little different.
This is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And Han Solo is Brett Favre.
Yes. No. Yes, sure, whatever. The gunslinger thing, yeah, okay, yeah.
Favre throws before looking. Han shoots before looking as well. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, we might as well stick to the Star Wars because eventually.
Greedo shot first.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out with that right now.
So, by the way, El Josa, on NeoGAF, there was a thread about one guy was dissing Malcolm Reynolds in Destiny. Apparently Nathan Fillion's in that game. And he said he called Malcolm Reynolds a poor man's Han Solo. And like, you see the first page of NeoGAF posters just getting angry at how dare he describe Malcolm Reynolds as poor man's Han Solo. And the whole time I'm thinking, and I like Firefly a lot. And I'm going, he's absolutely 100% poor man's Han Solo. He's not anything else.
Big time.
I mean, I would imagine Joss Whedon basically will tell you he based that character on Han Solo. Dean Winchester and Sam Winchester from Supernatural, Eric Kripke has gone on saying the idea of that show was, what if Luke Skywalker and Han Solo were on a road trip across the country? And you get that on some level with their personality, with their character arcs over the course of the show, right? So, Star Wars' main characters have been ripped off in way too many ways at this point.
I don't understand why that sets, people would get so upset. It's like, yeah, of course, Star Wars has an enormous amount of cultural capital. People are going to borrow from it.
Being compared to Han Solo is a compliment, you freaking morons. Yeah, if you're being compared to one of the most iconic characters ever in a positive light, that's a good thing.
Yeah, being poor man's Han Solo is not necessarily a bad thing. At the same time, I go, it's as though, with fantasy, the thing is Lord of the Rings, everyone traces their lineage to Lord of the Rings, right?
Pretty much.
With science fiction, I mean, I'm sure there's other major works, but realistically, it's Star Wars and Star Trek. It's those two that, Star Wars gives the...
Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Flash Gordon dictates what he wanted out of Star Wars. I get that. I'm saying, but, Star Trek in so many little stories, and how it, outlines things is how... Battlestar Galactica does not work without a Star Trek in this world. Name a science fiction universe in video games. Mass Effect is ripping off Star Trek's playbook from start to finish, minus the part where Star Trek actually has good endings.
I mean, I think you could probably argue that some things rip off Alien, but it's mostly those.
I mean, Alien is there as well, but it's just, I feel like those two are the go-to usually. Video games, seem to like
even Alien was influenced by Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Without Star Wars, it would have taken a little bit longer for the modern action film to become what it was. It more revolutionized how they cut together action films.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that X-wing and Death Star fight at the end of New Hope was wow.
Yeah.
It still is pretty crazy.
It's still an awesome moment.
You look
even when Luke was escaping with Han and Leia out of the Death Star, how they shot that together was, for 1977, was pretty much completely different. It was a lot less guys just grabbing their chests as they die kind of stuff, and there was a little more visceral impact to the whole thing.
Yeah. So I keep bringing it to the Star Wars conversation because we're not going to have this conversation on podcast, but we argued, the four of us, argued over whether or not Rey was a great character. The big argument comes from this. Rey, to me and William, comes off that she didn't really have a major obstacle to overcome, right? And she came off, I don't want to call her a Mary Sue, because then everyone gets all, you're pretentious for putting a label on it. And it's but that general idea of...
I don't think it's a Mary Sue so much as, the things that she could have used as an arc are glossed over so quickly.
Yeah.
That she just never has...
Yeah, and there's this myth that every movie, every character, there has to be an arc over the course of the story. That's not necessarily true, because when you think about it, use Game of Thrones as an example, Jaime Lannister has not changed since the fucking pilot of that show. All that's happened is you've discovered...
Jaime Lannister has changed? What?
In what way?
He used to be a dick, now he's not...
How is he not a dick? He's still the guy who knocked the kid off a tree.
He's
still the guy.
Episode.
That doesn't matter. What? Yeah, exactly. I'm saying you're saying change. How did he change? Here's what I'm saying. All that's happened. That doesn't matter. Just because he was in charge of his life. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is we're not getting into a Game of Thrones conversation, and you're fucking wrong. But the only thing that really happened is that you discovered that Jaime Lannister isn't as bad as you think he is. But he's still, he's still very much the guy that. Well,
I mean, fuck Game of Thrones.
I don't know why.
It sucks, it's not.
The point is, sometimes all you want is given more layers to a character, and there's just no layers to Rey. She's charismatic because the actress is charismatic. She's very lively. She's
Can someone have layers of like awfulness, like being a bad dude? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that's just Joffrey was almost Machiavellian in how bad he was, and that's what made him work.
He has no redeeming qualities.
Yeah, and then that's
screenwriter.
Yeah, whatever. The point I'm trying to make is, it'd be one thing if Rey had anything else going for her, but as a character, she comes off thin by the end of the movie because she doesn't really overcome any obstacle. She was successful at everything she did in that movie, just about. And, you know,
she got over her abandonment issues.
I mean, sure.
I think Aljos and I have had this discussion a little bit before, but I think the issue for me is that, specifically the abandonment issues, is that it's not something that she really has to overcome. Basically, somebody gives her a pep talk, and she's like, "Okay, I'm over it."
Yeah,
sure.
There's no...
How do we know she was having, like, internal conflict and stuff about
That's irrelevant. That is bullshit. I don't want to hear, how do we know? It could happen in the next one. No, that is your job as a storyteller.
Is, right? You watch it and then you make your own conclusions.
Yeah, but that's not... No, interpretation...
That's what you're doing. It's the exact same thing. You're just disagreeing with my thing. You think it's invalid.
We're not saying it's invalid. I'm saying maybe I gloss it over after a certain point. Like, you're saying she's got this depth to her, but she doesn't.
Like, the thing about writing screenplays is you have to write stuff that you can show on camera. Yeah. And it's great if you have all that internal conflict that your character is dealing with, but you have to find a way to show it to your audience, and The Force Awakens doesn't do that.
Well, that's the thing about Star Wars, right? Remember when the first movie came out, there was all talk about Civil War and all this stuff. They didn't really, like, tell you what the answer is to. The same shit here. You can make up all your, like, own...
Yeah, but those were, like, tertiary elements of the movie. Luke's character in that movie was overcoming all the, like, he was...
What was he overcoming in
okay, let's go over this. He gets saved by Obi-Wan Kenobi against the Sand Dudes, right? He is about to get his ass kicked in that bar and gets saved by Ben. His family gets killed.
His family gets killed. He mourns them for like a second, that's not...
That's not the point. Okay, that's bad writing on that part. What I'm saying is Luke came off as more of a layered character because Luke wasn't good at everything. He wasn't fully capable. He learns to become more capable over the course of that movie. Over the course of 3 movies. You know what I'm saying? He gets saved all the way throughout the trilogy. There isn't a character that hasn't saved Luke Skywalker. There wasn't anyone that saved Rey in that movie. She saves herself. Except for Chewbacca putting a nice bullet on what's-his-face.
Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
That wasn't just a bullet. That was like a grenade.
Yeah.
The fact that he didn't explode, that's simply plot armor.
But she took on a relatively highly trained Force user, right? First outing is doing things that took Luke Skywalker 2 movies to do. Like, this very movie franchise has basically established these are difficult things to learn, and she's doing it at the snap of a finger.
But that is why I think there's more to it. I don't think...
Right. The point I was...
And that's the thing is that we're looking at the OT, Luke, in terms of 3 movies. Luke
I'm saying one movie. One movie.
In
New
episode
Hope.
4... He
didn't do much in episode 4.
Once Obi dies, he was perfect. He somehow picks up an X-Wing. Okay, so we're
that's it. And then,
ignore that.
And then he's
then
about
he blows
to
up the fucking Death Star.
Darth Vader is about no. You guys both forgot the most important part about the Death Star. He's about to get blown the fuck up by Darth Vader and gets bailed out, last Deus Ex Machina style, by freaking Hans. I guess it's not Deus Ex Machina because they set it up. But Millennium Falcon and Han Solo come in to save his ass. Like, it's not even one of those scenarios.
And you're just assuming Rey was going to get off that planet if those guys didn't come pick her up.
Yes. I'm saying, because everything else he was doing.
Like,
Finn goes in at one point, Finn goes in to help her out. And it's like, no. Rey's got this because we got strong, independent women. Which is what I was trying to get to before you assholes made this a Star Wars conversation again. Listen, let's agree to disagree on whether or not Rey is worthy of this. My weird issue now is, right, my opening rant, even though we've already gone like 30 minutes, is that for whatever reason, and this has happened in gaming, and it's just whatever, there seems to be like this weird definition of strong meaning power, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what
more about independence.
Yeah, we're independence, or like as long as they're independent, they're good. And I'm like, that's not a strong character to me. That's not the only way a character is strong. There's like some of the best characters to me have flaws, need help, like need their friends, their family, their whatever. To me, like Mrs. Coach Taylor from Friday Night Lights is a strong female character. She's not independent necessarily. She depends on Coach Taylor for obvious money and the fact that like her husband's life is important to her life, to the point where her career is taking a back seat over the course of that show, right?
Right.
But no one can say she's not charismatic. No one can say she's not funny. No one can say Tammy doesn't get out of line either. Sometimes she's not understanding her own daughter because she does the parent thing where she thinks she's the parent, so she's right all the time. It's like, no. Sometimes she is unreasonable to Coach Taylor. Sometimes she is unreasonable with what her expectations are for other kids. She hated Tara without ever meeting her, right? And all those things. Like, it made that character compelling because she was believable. She was real. She had layers to her.
She was capable in her own right.
Yeah. Whereas video games, right? When I stick to video games now.
What are video games?
Video games
Something
are these.
you stopped playing a long
these
time
things,
ago.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm playing Dota right now.
It seems like as long as the woman doesn't need a man and is physically capable, as long as she's not sexualized, there is going to be a large...
No. Bechdel test, yeah.
Yo, I'm just saying, it's like, as long as she isn't sexualized, we're gonna act like it's this strong female character. And we're gonna say Princess Leia wasn't a strong female character because she was in a bikini. But it's like, no, Princess Leia is a fantastic character. You, Lara Croft, sucks. Tomb Raider reboot. I haven't played Rise of the Tomb Raider. You know? And that bothers me all of a sudden.
I think we're getting into this...
yeah, that's where I want to go, is where it seems like we're so quick to talk about diversity and how all these characters gaming has done a poor job with. I mean, we don't have too many great black characters. I can't name one good Indian video game character. A Hispanic one, maybe. I don't know. The Lewis guy from freaking...
Altair from Assassin's Creed was alright.
He's Arabian.
Guess. I mean, he's Arab. That's close enough.
Yeah, well, that's close enough. See? Close enough.
I mean, if you say Indian, I think of Tommy from Prey. He was good.
He's Native American.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Native American, whatever. But still, it's an underrepresented
Use
thing.
the correct nomenclature.
Chinese.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Chinese and Indians, that's what? 40% of the population of the world, and they are, I can't even...
listen, my people end up either the taxi driver or the doctor. Or,
and I can't even think of one
my people are Canadians. So.
main character from China or India, to be honest. I can't think of one.
No.
Jade Empire exists, was
Not
it?
even Jade Empire.
Yeah.
I was going to say fucking Sleeping Dogs.
Sleeping Dogs also is really good.
Wei fucking Shen is in Hong Kong.
Okay, so there's a couple. But
Yeah, I mean,
India,
whatever.
it's
The
just
point
getting
is,
screwed.
like, that's low. That's not even... You know, we always make this joke. I mean, it's always a common thing. It's like, oh God, they're doing New York again in an open world game. But there's a degree of truth to it. As much as New York is the greatest city on God's green earth, there are other cities on this planet that other people would want to see, like Hong
Minneapolis,
Kong or Paris or London or Minneapolis.
Chicago.
Why not Chicago? Chicago's had one game, from my understanding, and it's Watch Dogs, and that's disappointing. Chicago deserves better than that. Seattle, one of like the more influential cities in terms of music, got infamous Second Son, and it did nothing with Seattle. Like, nothing. It had a Space Needle. Like, congratulations. You know what I mean?
Seattle was a main city in World in Conflict as well.
Oh,
but
World
there
of
we
Conflict's
blew it
a
up.
Rad game. Yeah, we blew it up in World of Conflict. I was about to say. World of Conflict is, again, World in Conflict, where the cities are getting blown up. You know what I mean?
That's a fucking fantastic game.
World in Conflict's awesome. God damn it.
I mean, I think the problem, like going back to that, maybe not cities so much as characters, is you get so little of them in general, so that when one does come along, and this kind of goes to like the Rey issue as well, is like, you know, you don't get a lot of female leads in film. They're just not a lot. So when you get that one female lead, that female lead has to be...
In a big blockbuster, he means, all
Yo, I think it's more like you'll never see the same complaints level that they get from a male. Like, look at all those superheroes in the Marvel movies, yo.
But
no
they
one will ever say they're too
no. Superman is the poster child for he's too powerful and he's moody and there's not a lot of layers to him. Avengers 2 came out and all anyone focused on was how none of those characters developed beyond where they started in that movie. 100% valid. And
but I don't watch Avengers for character development.
I'm not
I
saying
watch it for the comedy and the action.
You're correct. You're correct. There's a degree.
So that's the thing is, I watch Star Wars for a bit of character development.
For the fun. I'm saying that's not what I want to focus on. Isn't Star Wars holistically? I'm saying it feels like we want to celebrate these characters as like something special, and I'm like, some of these just aren't that special as characters. Like they're good. Good is fine in a case, but like you're calling them great. I want to be like, all right, where's the layers to it? You know what I mean? Like True Detective Matthew McConaughey's character, I was like, yeah, that's a good character. He has a stupid ending at of that show, but it's a good character.
So I think this movie, Rey is kind of like the forced upon us main person, but I think the real main character of Force Awakens was really Finn. It was Finn. They're setting Rey up to be the trilogy's main character, but individually, this movie was followed Finn. He was the driver.
But he had even less character than
Finn. I thought it was worse than Rey in terms of character development. I mean, they had a consistent arc they were aiming for, wanting to defect, and it still made me go. So we basically ended where we started because I haven't seen anything from this guy other than that really contrived scene where they look at each other and like, we're gonna fuck at some point during this trilogy, not on screen, but let's be real.
Well, say it's a Star Wars movie, so there will be no
which is fine. Yeah. And I'm just saying because like the other big character I could think of is Carrie Ann Moss's character recently on Marvel's Jessica Jones is like paraded as like this because she's lesbian, right? And she's like this malicious character, and they're saying like, oh, you know, we turned it around as far as celebrating homosexual characters on television and film. I'm like, first of all, we've had a couple of really good ones over time. I mean, yeah, I don't think most people argue Brokeback Mountain is a bad movie. I don't remember that, at least.
Oh, that movie won a bunch of Oscars, and deservedly so.
So that's what I'm saying. So at the same time, I'm like, when you think of Carrie Ann Mouse's character, if anything, there's that stupid, one of the Anita videos, she has the chick that's playing a dude character. The only difference is that it's a woman now, and that's not good necessarily, the way she puts it, because like you didn't fix the problem, you just found a really cheap band-aid. Instead of making a compelling woman, you just made a guy and turned him into a woman, right? And ultimately, Carrie Ann Moss's character is exactly the same guy character it was in Alias, the comic this character is based on, apparently. Except now she's lesbian, and we're gonna make this big thing about it, right? And it doesn't add anything to it. Because throughout the whole course of the show, I'm like, well, her being lesbian is irrelevant. And if anything, that's sort of the point they were going for, is that her being lesbian doesn't define her as a character. Her being a cold hard bitch defines her as a character, right? And instead of the people watching the show getting that, there's like a sea of fluff piece articles on, you know, Carrie Ann Moss I forgot the fucking character's name right now. This is terrible. William, you know comics. What's that character's name? The lawyer from Jessica Jones.
I'm not familiar enough with that bit of comics lore, Goggin. I'm sorry.
Fuck. It'll come to me. Point is, I don't like these fluff pieces. Is really what I'm getting at.
Like this entire podcast?
This podcast hasn't been a fluff piece at all. Where's
We're
the
not
fluff
talking
piece?
video games.
Yeah, I mean, no. I said no. This podcast is bloated and poorly paced.
Upgrade.
Goggin, is it Jerry Hogarth?
Jerry Hogarth, yes. Thank you.
That's a chick's name?
Well, she becomes, Jerry Hogarth. They call her Hogarth. I'm sure it's like a different first name. So, I don't know. Does that bother any of you guys? I mean, of course I know it doesn't bother any of you.
I haven't seen Jessica Jones yet, but I hear good things.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just saying. I feel like that's the way it's gotten about video game characters, though, too. Because I'm awaiting Mafia 3 coming out, and the main character just being black will somehow be like this transcendent thing of him being this awesome character because he's African American. And I'm like, no, that's not a solution. That's just more of the same problem.
Right.
You just changed his, like, you just went into whatever they use to make games. WASD? CS? What's the software? Java?
Code?
Yeah.
Java
code.
the Hutt?
Anyway.
Java the Hutt.
Whatever.
Spends his time
That's my rant. The only other rant I had for this podcast was, I don't like it that when you ever say anything negative on our forum about a video game, even when you like dial back the negativity, it's instantly you're a hater. Or
I mean, it depends how they say it. I don't know. Depends how the
you are a hater.
I mean, I said the game was rad.
Oh, you were hating on it? Something?
Yeah, I was on our forum. I'm saying things about The Witcher 3 on how certain things about the combat mechanics aren't that good, right? And then it was I didn't understand the video game. It was like, yes, at 27 years old, and having played video games since the freaking SNES, I've now lost the ability to understand how to play a video game where you hit dudes with swords. Then it turned into Get Good, which is like the laziest of all defenses to make.
That's what you would say about Ninja Gaiden, let's be real.
Because it's fucking Ninja Gaiden, there's actually something to get good at.
Yeah,
anyway,
you can't get good at Witcher, yo.
The Witcher 3, I'm playing on the hardest difficulty. Everyone else played it on normal.
Whose fault is that?
Mine, I guess. But,
I don't even care about Witcher.
All I'm saying is, like...
I get what you're saying, yeah.
You know, it's just, listen, we all get annoyed when we read some Dark Souls douche going, get good. And it's like, that's not... No.
Yeah, I think some people think, like, some games are, like, infallible. That, like, if you're playing it wrong or whatever, playing it not well, it's somehow always your fault.
Well, that's anything, man. It's like you say anything negative about somebody. If you tell people Tom Brady probably knew about the freaking deflating, it's like, oh, how could you say that about the greatest quarterback of all? He's still the greatest quarterback of all time, but where there's smoke, there is fire. There's a lot of smoke in New England. Are we really going to pretend they haven't bent the rules a little bit? Of course they have. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. Anyway. So, you know, like that scenario, if you badmouth a movie, people get defensive. I'm not going to say we're any better. If someone badmouths Resident Evil 4, we're like, get the fuck out of here. The island is fantastic.
Is it even possible to badmouth Resident Evil 4?
I know! It's just a fucking foolish errand to go down that path. Lunacy of the highest order.
Man, people are crazy. I had a conversation with a couple people about the new Star Wars movie, and I wasn't, like, over the moon for it.
Yeah.
People were like, how dare you? I'm like, I'm sorry.
I'm still not over the moon.
I was like, it's entertaining. Like, what more do you want me to say? I was like,
I have issues with the way that a couple of these things happened. I still really liked it, but come on.
In like a general conversation, I'll never go in detail about what I didn't like. I was like, yeah, it was fun. It was okay. I didn't, I thought it was fine. And usually, whatever, that person will just assume I don't like science fiction or whatever the fuck, which...
Right.
So, and we just go from there. But like, you ever try to have a detailed conversation with it? Ah, damn, I just got a hiccup. It's like, oh my god. Anyway. Speaking of Star Wars, Wazzy's played a Star Wars video game.
I've been playing Battlefront.
Did you know Endless Backlog Podcast is a video game podcast, Wazzy?
I had no idea. I swear this was the bitching about Tom Brady and the Patriots podcast.
I don't ever bitch
What's
about
a video
Tom Brady.
game?
Yeah, anyway. While Joseph's still doing his video game thing. Wazzy. Star Wars Battlefront has been effectively badmouthed since it's launched, right?
Yeah.
But, things that we can say that are positive about Battlefront. A, it looks fucking pretty.
It is.
B,
easily the best looking game I've ever seen in my life. Not even a competition.
The current benchmark for best looking video game.
And best sounding game.
That definitely in that argument, yeah. No, I wouldn't even say argument. It's definitely up there, right? Like, I don't even know who's close. But that's always been DICE's thing. They've been gods at audio.
Yeah, since they built the new engine, the Frostbite engine, Bad Company 1 on the Xbox 360, the PS3 had just awesome audio, and they've just been making it better ever since.
Just fucking deafening on explosions at times.
It's so good.
Yeah. What else was I gonna say? Besides the fact that they get the look and feel of Star Wars, right? Which they do. I actually lost my track. That seems to be the only positives of Battlefront 2. Oh, and it works.
There are
unlike
positives?
Battlefield 4.
Oh yeah, it works. That's a good one.
And it works, yes.
The most important thing of
as
any
long as you
game
don't
is
live in
actually being able to
Australia,
play.
then it works.
Yeah. So, Wazzy, tell us about Star Wars Battlefront.
Well, obviously the goods are covered, but the bads is it's a pretty.
Let's start with the bads. Like, get detailed about the game. Like, what's the game? What's Battlefront?
Well, the game is just a pretty standard shooter with a kind of a telling of, or a retake on the classic rush mode from Battlefield, where one team actually has a walker, the AT-AT walkers, and the other team is essentially arming the MCOMs and waiting for them to go through a timer, and every time the timer on it reaches 0, another Y-Wing bomber can get called in, and then once the walkers reach a certain point, like a match counter, timers reach a certain point, how many Y-Wings have been called in, start hitting the AT-ATs and making them vulnerable, and you blow them up. It's alright. It's not exactly the most innovative thing ever, since it's really just an advanced rush mode. It's fun. There's only 5 of those maps now, including the one DLC map. And out of those maps, only like 2 are any fun. Like, you can tell they were rushed for time. Then it's got your standard fares, your capture the flag variant, your team deathmatch variant. It's got the heroes, where you can call in super overpowered heroes from the movies, like the Emperor, Boba Fett, Vader, Leia, Han, and Luke.
Does that mode play like Halo Zombies mode or something?
What?
No.
Boba Fett sucks. Fuck Boba Fett.
Yeah, fuck Boba Fett.
Anyway, he's OP as hell, and yeah. The thing is, the core gameplay is pretty shallow. Very straight shooting. Very solid for what it is, though. Like, guns feel good. They shoot where you want. It's all hip fire. There's no aim down sights or any of that mechanic. There's not a lot of AoE weapons, so in the TTK it's a bit higher, so you gotta hit people a little bit more, so it's just pretty much arcadey.
Yeah, and you wanna know what's funny about it though? It doesn't have ADS in the strictest sense. It has that Halo zoom, right?
Yeah.
And Halo doesn't have an ADS bonus, but they turned their traditional zoom into an ADS, and whatever, it doesn't play like actual ADS, but the point is, it's weird. It's like, why didn't they just keep the regular ass zoom?
Yeah, I don't understand with the Halo 5, but with Battlefront, it does concentrate your shots a little bit more at a loss of sensitivity. So there's a slight ADS to it, but doing so will get you killed. If you go to it, it's not a go-to thing. Yeah. It is really just for distance shots. Yeah. The variety of weapons, there are only like 11 total guns to choose from, and they are actually quite unique because there's so few of them, and I like that approach. A lot of people are bitching there's not enough weapons, but the opposite end of the spectrum is Battlefield 4, where there's 75 guns, all of which 5 are probably unique. Yeah. And the rest of them are slightly different here and there, and you really have to know the meta to understand the differences. It's just not the...
Yeah, it's what I argued in favor of Titanfall. People kept complaining there weren't a lot of guns in the game. I'm like, yeah, but all the guns were actually useful for a certain playstyle. You didn't have 4 shotguns and only one of them is really the shotgun you want. You have a shotgun.
Yeah. And that's how Battlefront is. So that's a dumb complaint I hear. They use the star card system and Call of Duty style loadouts instead of classes. And that's actually not a terrible system now that I've got to play with it. It's just a unique way of doing it. Your star cards are on timers. Yeah. So there's no ammo in the game and stuff, and your star cards are on timers. And that's fine because it works with the pace. You don't live long enough, and if you do, whatever, you shouldn't have to be running around.
If anything, it's sort of like, I don't want to say the word balances because I know you're going to complain as soon as I say this, but it finally makes that camping sniper douche not the annoyance he is in other games when he's a camping sniper douche because the sniper's on a timer.
Yeah, there's no dedicated sniper weapon in the game. There is a kind of a middle ground, a blaster that's long range, slow rate of fire that you could snipe with, but there's no zoom. Yeah. So there's 2 sniper rifles in the game. I've only used one of them. It's got a charge up, and if you charge it up all the way and hit somebody, it's a 1-hit kill. Yeah. It's kind of broken, but so is most of the stuff in this game. Yeah. Then they keep it mixed up with the power-ups and the random power-ups across the map. Now there we get to call in manable turrets, AI-driven turrets, a vehicle turret that auto-targets vehicles, a rocket launcher, thermal imploder grenade, which is just this massive and awesome grenade that kills everything. The vehicles are all powered by these, but those I have dedicated spots. So you 3 kinds of star power up things. The random one that gets you your on the PC it's number 4. It's your 4th slot essentially, and then there's the vehicle for the ATST, and the flying stuff like the Walker, the X-wings and the A-wings and stuff like that. And then there's the hero ones. And who the hell's doing that? That's really annoying.
It's William.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It should be stopped now.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was losing my train of thought.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, so you have the 3 different kinds of power-ups, and they're strategically placed out throughout the map. And I like it because it keeps it kind of fresh, because you don't know what you're going to get. The shield is what I've been seeming to get lately, more than anything. I think they must have tweaked that number in the last patch. But yeah, the core gameplay is a lot of fun. There's just not a lot to it.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is that if you go into Battlefront thinking you're going to kick ass and just be the best, you have to accept the fact there's a lot of cheese. Like the star card, that is literally a rocket that homes in on infantry and one hit kills them. You will die to that a lot.
Like to me, there were some annoying knocks against the game that, or just and the same way, there were weird defenses for the game that didn't really work. Like the first annoying knock, the go-to is when they try to reduce Battlefront to, well, it's a casual shooter. Well, so is Titanfall, so is Halo, so is Call of Duty. I mean, so are a lot of these games. They're not exactly Tribes. They're not exactly Counter-Strike. You're not going from gun to gun in the ballistic exchange. Like, relax here. You get what I'm saying? And that doesn't necessarily mean they're bad either when they're casual. Like, at the same time, first of all, it's a terrible way to fucking describe a video game, is casual and hardcore, but that's besides the point. And just more so, it's like, there exists a market of people that don't necessarily want to play, right? Like, they don't necessarily want to learn Virtua Fighter, they learn Mortal Kombat instead. Mortal Kombat's easier to learn. Virtua Fighter's time-consuming. You know what I'm saying? Star Wars is naturally going to be no different. It's also going to be aimed at fucking kids. It's Star Wars.
I mean, it is a much more, I mean, even compared to Titanfall stuff, it's very casual.
Yeah,
in terms of
shallow, right?
It's casual because of the randomness and the cheese.
Yeah.
They're like, if you're not really good at the game, there's weapons that you could just cheese it up the whole time and still get kills, even against the better players.
Yeah.
There's some I think the biggest nagging issues I have are simply lazy map design.
Yeah.
Not lazy as much as rushed, and they just didn't have a lot of time to make really well thought out, well played maps.
There's not enough maps sometimes. It feels
there's not enough maps. The ones they do have, they're not the greatest. And then the spawn system and stuff is still not the greatest. You'll find yourself spawning into death way too often, and it just becomes a frustrating experience.
Yeah. Because the idea behind it is that there's 5 planets, 2 maps each, but realistically it's 5 maps, 2 versions of each map, in that sense that there's 5 versions that are the big version of the map, the Conquest equivalent of Battlefront mode, right? Mm-hmm. And then the shorter variants, the Team Deathmatch, the whatever.
Yeah, so there's a total of now 15 maps.
Yeah.
But yeah, like 2 of the game modes will use...
That math doesn't add up, it would be 10. 5 math. Where are the other? I mean, whatever.
There are a couple like
other variations.
Yeah, there's a couple smaller. Like the small maps have multiple variations of small. They're not.
There's a small, medium, and large.
Essentially, yeah. There's 2 smalls and a large, kind of a thing. So yeah, there's a total of 15 maps. Honestly, I only play Walker Assault because the rest of the modes are just. I mean. The thing that makes Walker Assault fun is that, unlike the Rush mode, you do have that impending AT Walker coming straight for you.
You got the X-Wings and the TIE Fighters in the air.
The one of, I guess 2 of the maps, I should say, or a couple of the maps, they shouldn't really count as maps. They're the flying versions of the map for the fighter squadron, which is a fun mode, but it's hilariously broken because DICE really hasn't spent a lot of time balancing. There are some just blatantly overpowered things that if you get it, you win. Kind of a deal. Like the heroes, I get it, they're supposed to be I win, but in the fighter mode, the Millennium Falcon is unkillable. And all the rebel ships all have I win shields, where if you start taking damage, you hit the shield and you stop taking damage. While the Imperials get a boost, which doesn't actually get them away from the enemy. So 9 times out of 10, the rebels are going to win fighter squadron because it's just broken and DICE has yet to address that. And on the ground, a lot less of a balance issue. There's more of a individual weapons like the one of the last gun in the game that you can unlock is blatantly overpowered.
Right.
That's annoying. The heroes are, I would say the most overpowered heroes are actually the ranged heroes, Han Solo and Boba Fett, because you can play them like a little bitch and just rack up a huge KD ratio without putting yourself into danger. The other,
especially Fett, because he has that jetpack.
Exactly. Fett's probably the hardest. If you get somebody who's good with Fett,
just is sacrilege of the highest order, because like
they
George Lucas understood that Boba Fett sucks. And
they
he
did
deserves to die a miserable death. Anyway,
most of the guys, when they get their heroes, they go forward and get a huge burst of kills instead of milking it for the entire game. Mm-hmm. So it's not a huge problem. You do need to spend some more time to get used to how the heroes work, because all 6 of them are actually very unique. Mm-hmm. They're very well designed, minus some balancing issues, like how they play, and they're very varied. Like Luke and Vader are not, okay, despite them having lightsabers, they are not the same character. They're not a reskin of each other. Vader's much more slow, clunky. He has the Force choke, while Luke is jumping around like a monkey, just flying all over the place. And he's just a much more agile, deadly character, but Vader is just this, you can't stop him moving forward. Vader, I think still right now, is probably the weakest of all of them too, because they nerfed the ability to block laser blasts with the lightsaber. They put in a cooldown, or a timer, basically, that charges back up. And they didn't give it long enough for Vader's slower mobility. So not a lot of people play as Vader. But I swear, when you hear Vader coming, and it's just terrifying, because you might be running away and you're either going to get a lightsaber through the gut, or he's going to force choke you, which is just scary when that happens.
Does he do the breathing noise?
Yes. And the thing is, just like in DICE stuff, the NPCs, or not the NPCs, but the player characters all have call-outs and shit, because there's no voice chat and whatnot. So you hear people, their avatars screaming and stuff, and you'll hear this, Vader's here, and all of a sudden you'll hear a lightsaber kill the guy. It's like, oh god, run away.
That's badass. And
I have the most badass part I've ever seen. I turn the corner, and this guy in front of me, he's running forward, and just like in the trailer, starts getting force choked. I stopped, turned around, and ran away. I'm like, not happening. They're definitely, when the heroes are on the field, they're scary. You see Luke Skywalker running towards you while you're an Imperial, yeah, you're screwed, and you know it too. And there's not much you can do other than start shooting and pray. So
overall,
it's a fun game. I got it for $45. I'd never spent $60 on it. Not enough content to justify.
Fuck you, Aljosa. Anyway,
the single player.
What did I do?
You know what you did.
There's not a lot of single player content. There's some co-op stuff too, but overall, because really only 4 of the maps are anywhere, or 5 of the maps now are ever worth playing. Only 2 of the game modes are really fun. I guess if you like playing as the heroes, there's the hero modes. I haven't played those yet because I'm more of a shooter fan, and that's more of in the lines of silliness. Because there's not a lot of skill that comes into when you put all the heroes and a map together, it's just chaos. And some people thrive on chaos. They enjoy chaos. I don't like chaos. So I stay away from that mode because it would just be frustrating to me. But overall, it's pretty good. If you're a huge Star Wars fan, it's worth playing because of just the production values alone. But if you're a shooter fan, it's not going to replace any of your shooters.
Yeah.
But does it feel appropriately Star Warsy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, right?
Well, yeah. You can tell they rushed this one to completion to get it out for the movie.
Yeah.
I have full confidence that they've got a great base to work off of. The next game they make is going to be potentially could be great, but that's kind of shitty.
That's assuming if it's got its own development cycle and not. All right, you got to get ready for episode 8.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming that DICE has already started work on that game, but now I've heard DICE is working on Battlefield. It's like, okay, so what about Battlefront 2?
So who's doing Mirror's Edge? I mean, I know DICE is this huge studio now, but
DICE has a small team of within their Swedish studio has been making Mirror's Edge for a while now. It got delayed like 6 months because it was supposed to come out this year, but they just delayed it till next year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, whatever. That game probably was for the best. The game was coming in on some rough competition.
Yeah, in terms of Star Wars games, there's better ones, but
So Battlefront's going to be the only thing Star Wars related recently that's not going to do as strong as everyone thought. I mean, it's going to do strong, obviously. It's going to make a profit and a lot of money. I'm saying, like, it seems like The Force Awakens is putting up money, right? Subway's probably making a killing on Star Wars. So is every other thing that's got some merchandise to go with Star Wars. Battlefront, they probably expected huge numbers,
and it's not getting
I think they were expecting like 13 million by January.
They might still hit that, but if you go by how many people are actually playing, I mean, word got out, don't buy this game.
Yeah.
It's not worth the $60. Like, as I said, I got it for cheap. So
that's crazy, though.
Hopefully that wakes someone up at EA, basically saying you have a very talented developer, an awesome engine, and one of the best licenses in the world to have. Yet you delivered that.
I mean, you can't think of a better license to sell money. Star Wars has printed money in this medium at this point.
Hey, speaking of like having the IP, how did that IP exactly like get to EA?
Disney bought Lucas. Disney owns LucasArts, right?
Yeah, I know that. But
so Disney basically just signed a contract with EA.
Yeah,
that was it.
As simple as that, from my understanding.
Yeah, it's basically LucasArts doesn't have internal teams anymore, so
they do.
Signing...
They're all mobile. Oh no, wait, no, they don't. They have Disney has their own internal teams for mobile games.
Yeah, Disney Interactive works for mobile games, and then they have the people that make what are those games called? Disney Infinity. God, I'm getting old. Anyway, and fuck you. Anyway, and so after that, they were thinking, all right, we have these other properties, and I'm guessing EA put in a really good bid for Star Wars.
I believe, from what I've heard, and I can't really say this is officially what happened, but what I've heard through the last 2 years is that Disney wanted a more, a publisher, not a dev studio, but a publisher with multiple development studios at a certain quality level. So the big guys, Ubisoft, Activision, EA, were all kind of they're targeting something like that. And Battlefront was kind of the.
Oh man, I'm about to make you feel really sad. Imagine Rockstar handling Star Wars.
I'm not going to think about that because that's just
trash. Think about it though, because they're smug as fuck. They would do the Chris Avalon thing where there's probably someone at Rockstar who hates Star Wars, and that's the motherfucker that writes the next Star Wars game.
Mash A to fly your X-wing.
And what I heard is that they signed a 10-year contract, but that was dependent on them delivering Battlefront within the time allocated. So there was pressure from EA to get that game out and delivered, which they did. Yeah. And now EA has got it.
Listen, there's a ton of possibilities. I mean, BioWare could make a Star Wars RPG.
I do believe Visceral is apparently making an open world RPG.
Yeah, they're making an RPG. Is the project leader on that.
Yeah. So it's like, now that I think they just announced that because they must have finalized the contract being like, yeah, you got it. So now that means they're not just going to do movie tie-ins, because I believe Disney said they don't want to just do tie-ins, direct, because those historically they don't do well, and they just make the series.
Historically they made sense back when you didn't have to spend a lot of money to make a video game like that. Now that you do, now the game needs to actually sell and actually be a hit.
The DLC for Battlefront's all going to be episode 7 based, and that makes tons of sense. Okay, so that's fine. And Battlefront, that's why I thought Battlefront was a really good place to start, because you can adapt it to basically anything they do in Star Wars. Yeah. Relatively easily. All you have to do is skin what you've already got.
So you're saying there's not going to be a movie tie-in, but are you really telling me when Rogue One is
there's going to be...
We're not getting either the next Rogue... I don't think Rogue Squadron is on the table, because I'm going to assume maybe Nintendo has a hand in that on some level?
Maybe.
I would be unsure, because the first one did come to PC.
Right, and Rogue Leader and Rogue Squadron 3 didn't. But
right. I'm not, like, it might and it might not. I think it was just Factor 5 was comfortable working with.
I mean, realistically, my thing is, the Rogue Squadron has its audience, has its fan base, but if you're really going to get smug about it, and there's no one more smug than EA at times, And if you think of a company better suited to lobotomize a more like in-depth video game, EA is the king of that. Could you imagine like a new X-Wing Alliance or a new TIE Fighter game, right?
Not with Star Citizen. No.
You say not with Star Citizen, but
the best you'll get out of
the name on this box is gonna say Star and Wars. Star Wars sells MMOs, man.
The biggest thing you're gonna get out of Rogue One is gonna be DLC for Battlefront. The space flight mode or some shit like that.
I guess. But like
I don't see them because those kind of games do not sell and didn't historically sell to the levels that they want to return on. An X-Wing, even Rogue Squadron games, they were very...
No, Rogue Squadron did well. Rogue Leader did really well. But I mean, Rogue Leader had the benefit of being a launch game, so it's like its numbers are.
But it had legs. It sold well.
Rogue Squadron 3 was the disappointing one.
It's one of those things with Rogue One. There's going to be obviously something, but it's going to be Battlefront because Battlefront's that platform. They've built this platform just to absorb these movie titles without having to do special things. Now, we could see a TIE Fighter revitalization because stuff like Star Citizen and whatnot exists, because now there's that, growing interest in space games, but it's
No Man's Sky.
It's going to be more of a Rogue Squadron thing because that's what's going to work on the consoles.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to put Star Citizen on the consoles. I mean, Elite Dangerous on the consoles, and that's pushing it because of what the game is. I couldn't imagine a game as with the energy management and stuff of the X-Wing and TIE Fighter series ever making it on the consoles. The audience isn't there. Like, yes, it has Star Wars on the box, but if Disney's dumb with this franchise and they know how to monetize, if they just start throwing out dozens of Star Wars games, they're going to make that name useless.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I don't think they're going to do that.
I don't think they are either. They're smarter than that. So that's why I don't think we're just going to see some arbitrary tie into Rogue One.
You know what's crazy? Disney is smarter than that. That's rare. And I say that's rare because I'm thinking as like people get surprised when like a big corporation does something stupid, and I tell people it's actually more of a surprise when a big corporation does something incredibly right. The stupidity thing is what they do often, because that's the nature of being a corporation. You just do things.
Like they got that Star Wars Heroes game on mobile.
Yeah.
My buddy plays that. He's addicted to it.
Yeah,
he loves it. Like apparently I've got it. I played a little bit. It's actually pretty
Marvel's
good.
printing money.
Yeah. Disney knows how to merchandise their stuff, and if they would do a 2 or 3 Star Wars games a year, they would just kill it. They'd flood the market and people would just say the hell with this.
Yeah.
The thing that you learn about Disney when you work for them, like the first thing they make you do is take a class. And in that class, the thing that they impress upon you the most importantly is that intellectual property is everything, and the worst thing you can do is damage your intellectual property.
And that's such a brilliant, brilliant thing to teach. Don't damage your own goods. Don't try to milk it to death. Because, I mean, they're doing one movie a year until audience
2020,
interest.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, until audience, and then after that, we'll see it'll come down to audience interest. Because, I mean, one movie a year that's not overkill. I think that's just right. Now, if they start pulling a Marvel and do 2 movies a year, how long could they ride that? Because, with Star Wars, you're talking billions of profit over.
I don't think Marvel necessarily ran themselves into the ground. I guess what ultimately hurt Marvel's thing is that when DC also joined in the battle finally. Like, it finally caught up, sort of, right? So now it's like, oh god, another cape. Like when Marvel was the cape story in movies, it was like, okay, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but now Marvel, it's like the superhero thing has gotten to a point where it's
an arms race now, and and the movies aren't even out yet, and people are going, oh god, there's going to be so many of them.
Star Wars is going to kick off something similar.
Yeah,
so how long until that catches up with Star Wars?
You think Star Trek is going to have, Enterprise 2, the second Enterprise?
Who knows? Well, I think I have a funny feeling we're going to start seeing science fiction fantasy movies much more.
They're going to reboot The Matrix.
Please don't.
I did hear of a reboot of Starship Troopers, which I just cringed.
Isn't the novel supposed to be way grittier than that movie is?
It's a political
that movie
piece.
is satire.
Yeah, the movie satire and the book's all this political thing about fascism.
Yeah, but isn't the book supposed to be considered good?
The book
won a Hugo Award, didn't it?
Yeah, it's an excellent novel, but it is very serious.
Yeah. So why not? Why not? Be kind of right.
But after that movie, you would no. I refuse to accept anything but the campy awesomeness that was.
The campy Starship Troopers. What if the world had both? It should have both.
No, it shouldn't have both. That should just have the. If I want it serious, I have stuff like I don't know, Interstellar.
The book wouldn't really fit as a movie. I mean, the part of the book, the appeal is that like lists out all these like the mechanisms and institutions in a fascist like military.
Would it work as a TV show?
It wouldn't really. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's more like just kind of like an essay of like how life would exist under
fascist.
like
so it would be like
scientific kind of thing.
So
I mean,
TV
it could be
show.
good. I mean, they made a movie. They made a show of Man in High Castle, so why not?
It'd be a better
Yeah,
show.
but Man in High Castle's not a good TV show.
I'd rather they make a movie or show
I
about the
love Man in
Forever
High
War.
Castle.
I think it's okay. It's just got weird like spots, like weird stretches with some of those scenes.
That sounds very much like a Philip K. Dick
Yeah,
thing.
but it's more like script things, right? Like certain dialogue change. Sometimes a character makes a decision and you're just like, what? And it's just irritating.
I'd rather them make a show about the Forever War, which is written as like as a reply to Starship Troopers, and I think it's much better.
Forever War is fantastic.
Yeah, that is a.
I heard they are going to be making that into a movie. Like someone got the movie rights.
About time. I'm surprised it hasn't been made into movie. Well, maybe it has. I just haven't heard of it.
No, it hasn't, and I've read it. It is a good novel, but
Ridley Scott got the rights to it.
But here's the thing: is that the thing's as much of a political piece as anything. If they just try to turn it into an action movie, it'll miss the whole point of the movie.
Yeah,
I mean
the
book.
good thing of the book that it was just like a allegory about the Vietnam War, which now with like all these talk about Iraq could be pretty socially relevant even now.
Yeah, the whole thing about the whole thing about the Forever War is how he keeps coming back to a changed world, and the war kind of kept the entire world going forward. So the government made sure it kept going. Otherwise, their entire economy would collapse. But it's more about him integrating back into the ever-changing society where all of a sudden, he comes back, 900 years in the future or whatever because of relativity. And, look at everyone's now a clone of two people and they're all gay.
Yeah, those heterosexual
freaks.
colonies, yeah. Fucking awesome.
Freaking freaks, those heterosexuals out there. But it's a good book. I don't know if it'd make a good movie.
They can make a good show or something. Really, Scott got the rights to it. He wants Channing Tatum to star in it, so...
Ridley Scott, I trust him more than a lot of people for that franchise.
Yep.
Yes. Because it's kind of what Ridley Scott does best, sci-fi.
Yep.
You got the writer of Prometheus doing it, so I'm not...
Which one?
I'm not positive. John Spates, the co-writer, not Damon Lindelof.
He had the first draft of that screenplay, and I've read it. What he wrote is significantly different and better than what was the final draft of that screenplay.
That is good.
Wow.
I haven't seen his other movies. The Mummy.
Ooh, The Mummy's good.
The first Mummy's so entertaining with Brendan Fraser.
Yeah,
the first Mummy is
the Tom
Mummy's
Cruise remake, yeah.
What?
Tom Cruise remake. A reboot or whatever.
They're doing a reboot with Tom Cruise?
Yeah, apparently.
Can Brendan Fraser be in it?
Tom Cruise, yeah.
Listen, I love the cruise missile, but can Brendan Fraser be in it?
Is he?
Yeah, without Brendan Fraser, it's not the freaking Mummy.
Well, you understand. There were some really good lines from Brendan Fraser. He was... whatever. He was poor man's Indiana Jones. Like, really? He was like budget Indiana Jones. But
it was hilarious.
But he was so hilarious. Him and Benny are just talking shit over the course of the movie. Benny's like, look who's got the horses. Look who's on the wrong side of the river. And it's the way Brendan Fraser delivers it. It's entertaining. He's great on Scrubs. Oh my god, the episodes with Brendan Fraser are sad.
Just don't, because... my heart's broken enough after
right?
beating... I beat Undertale recently, and it's been an emotional...
Did you like Undertale?
I hated the gameplay. I can't stand that. Like, just dragged on me.
What was wrong with the
so
gameplay?
badly. I don't like bullet hell games to begin with.
Oh, okay.
And it's just like, it's not really that great, but oh my god, the writing music is fantastic. So I slogged through the gameplay to experience the pacifist ending, and I cried. Legitimately cried.
Oh, it's a sad ending.
Well, I'm not going to spoil a thing.
Don't spoil it, because I do think I'm going to play it after The Witcher 3, at least for Game of the Year talk.
There's some straight up tragedy in that game that's just like, oh.
Do you buy, on our Skype chat, Emily and John are super into that game.
It was John that got me into it. He bought it for me.
Do you buy the game being as good as they think it is, or?
Gameplay, no, not gameplay wise. Story and stuff is the only thing I care about.
I guess, but
I think it's as good as I say it is. When it comes to gameplay, though, like it being up for Game of the Year, that's purely on story and soundtrack. Like I do not like the gameplay. Then again,
to be fair, I mean,
I like bullet hells. Apparently,
The Witcher 3.
When it comes to that,
The Witcher 3. I whatever I said it during the last podcast, calling The Witcher 3 bad gameplay is technically a poor way to put it, but.
Not your kind of gameplay.
Fuck that. Hitting things with the sword is absolutely my kind of gameplay. It's more so
more of a interact,
no,
less button mashy.
Yeah, it's what I mean more so is like I think discrediting the thing. Gameplay to me is interacting in a video game and the whole composition of the experience, like pacing, level design, mission structure, shit like that. In that context, making a build in The Witcher is enjoyable. Exploring that fucking world is so satisfying on so many levels. Especially if you go a little crazy town and turn off a lot of the markers. So then you're just sort of like paying attention to dialogue and just being like, oh, here's that river I'm supposed to buy and there's supposed to be a rock near here and now I go north from here and bam, I'm where I need to be. And that stuff's kind of cool. Also, Chris totally did forget about this. That's great. Although he did show up at actual podcast time, which, whatever. What was I trying to get at? Like, there's just other things about the game that are enjoyable to play that don't involve me hitting things with a sword. At the same time, when the game gets a really good monster, and I can't believe we're going to say this 3 podcasts in a row, it's really enjoyable when you're fighting humanoid enemies. It's not fun. And I want a supernatural video game really badly, and this is the closest thing we're getting. But yeah, I've been playing a lot of fucking Witcher 3. That's a long fucking game.
Yeah. I've got it installed. Are you playing it with the mouse keyboard? Or
I've played it with both. Playing it with a gamepad, I think, is disgusting.
Because I enjoy the more control of the 3D movement that the analog sticks provide over.
I mean, initially, maybe, but then I was just like, I just want my hotkeys for these powers.
True.
Because I don't like that power wheel, but, you know. Not a good quest thing. I don't want to bog this down with Witcher talk because we did it last podcast. So, Joseph, you played stuff?
Yeah, I did. I played stuff.
You played,
I played Gravity Rush Remastered.
Yeah, you played Gravity Rush. Tell us about Gravity Rush.
I'm about halfway, like, judging by the chapters and how much there is, and
right.
That game is the most frustrating thing because, like, one mission will be so absolutely amazing and, like, innovative and good looking and all that. And the next mission will have you, like, gathering gossip to find the missing Squirrel Girl, yo. It's so weirdly schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Well,
what is
like,
Gravity Rush, like, as a game?
Gravity Rush is it's an open world kind of, slash, well, not so much RPG, but open world action adventure game.
Right.
Where you control gravity and you can, like, fly all around the place.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the gravity controls and stuff are so fun to do. Like, I just found myself just flying around the city just for minutes on end, just not doing anything. And it's very, very animated. It's very, very, like, trying to think of a film to compare it to, like, anime wise. But it's very, like, well, actually, it's more of a, like, a European animation of comic books. There's a kind of a Tintin vibe to it, and it's very interesting the way the game looks and the way it plays and everything. And I don't know, like I want to eventually finish it, but since I'm, like, going away on vacation, I won't be able to play anything for a while. But I'd recommend
this is the port to the PS4 version, right?
It's the remake. It was made by Blue Point Games. They did
so it's a port.
It's a remake.
Port.
The game looks significantly better, but let's not get bogged down in semantics. Point is, it's pretty fun. I'd recommend it. I bought it on the Hong Kong store. It's fully in English, so I don't know why Sony's waiting to release it in February here. Like, whatever.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, so you got the inside. So this is like our one time we get to do early access on the reviews, man. You gotta get, like, in detail now. When you control gravity, like, what do you mean?
Like, you can press the L1 button, and your character will float in the air. Mm-hmm. And then when you press the gravity button again, she will, like, be falling upwards, because the gravity of the world has been flipped. Mm-hmm. And you control that to, like, get over puzzles and fight enemies and stuff. And it's done really cool. And then she can, like, walk on walls and ceiling and stuff like that.
Are the puzzles actually like elaborate, or is it like just like really quick puzzles and then you're moving on to the next? Like, is that like, combat or?
I think the puzzles themselves aren't really complicated, but it's still just fun to, like, fuck around with the controls and the gameplay and stuff. But, like, the puzzles and stuff are pretty, like, I think they're even less complicated than Zelda puzzles, like in the 3D Zelda games, which is, like, depending on your perspective, you might not like that. Because I know you like puzzle games, like, puzzles in games very, very much. So I think you'd probably be disappointed with Gravity Rush for that. But I don't know, the game just has a cool looking atmosphere to it. And the music is awesome, and the main character is pretty cool, actually. And they speak in a weird pseudo-French, Japanese made-up language, which just annoys the shit out of me. I always hated that. I remember Banjo-Kazooie did that shit too, where they were, like, talking like gibberish, like, and there's no option to turn it off.
And you like Zelda?
Zelda has no talking, doesn't it?
Usually they do some sort of noise. Well,
Usually,
you're right.
Didn't Twilight Princess have something?
Yeah,
I remember.
they say like one quick noise, and then like the text just scrolls.
Yeah, but I don't know. Gravity Rush. There's not much to say about it. It's very kind of like the Vita's first big.
You ready for the most breaking news of
game?
all breaking news right now? Like the news that transcends gaming. This might be the movie of the year next year. You ready for this?
Warcraft?
Oh god, what?
Yu-Gi-Oh is getting a new movie.
Who is starring in it? Yeah,
it's Yugi.
Yugi is playing Yugi. What? I mean,
yeah, no, they're making a new Yu-Gi-Oh. I don't know, probably the same actors they had for the other cartoon.
Oh, it's not live action.
No, oh God, no.
Oh, I thought you meant live action. That's why I was like, whoa.
Oh,
that's why I'm asking who's acting. You make it sound like some big ass thing, yo.
Now I want to see a live action Yu-Gi-Oh movie. That would be so stupid.
I want the Dragon Ball Evolution guys to make it, yeah.
Just have heart of the cards. Believe.
They wouldn't even
gotta believe.
No, there's no way they would spend the money to like actually make a Blue Eyes White Dragon. No way. Oh God, could you imagine the actor that has to dress up as
How would they even get his hair right, yeah?
The wizard that Yugi had, the Dark Magician.
Yeah. Oh my God. I imagine it'd be CGI though.
Oh, that would.
Maybe
it would still be great.
Yeah, they have like motion capture them. Oh, I want this now, yeah.
I know. I guess this news sucks now because it's like, oh, they could have went the extra mile, but they didn't.
It would have been the first endless backlog watches. We just talk about it as we're watching. It would have been the greatest thing ever.
God, that's one show I have to go back and rewatch just to see the ridiculousness.
It's up on Netflix.
No. It's on Netflix. It's on Netflix. Me and my nephew have been watching it.
Don't do it. So the way you remember it is better.
The amount of time.
I did that with Pokemon. I tried rewatching that, and God, it's awful.
The amount of time.
Wazdi, trust me on this.
I can rewatch Dragon Ball Z forever, and it just doesn't get worse to me. It's not a really good show. But Pokemon is just, oh God, it's not good.
It's because Dragon Ball Z doesn't do the whole friendship gag the way Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon do. Because in Yu-Gi-Oh! They just do this, and I'm watching this with my nephew. It's like, oh my God, this fucking friendship thing is gonna ruin me. This is so unbearable to watch when you're old. Because it's just like, well, they're friends. This is gonna get them through it. And it's like, what? No. And there's like one part, they're always mean to Yugi's rival because he's like a prick, right? Well, because he's the Falco of the show, I guess. Except there was one part where I'm going, no, he totally had every right to like shit on that dude. And then, whatever. The point is, they can make.
That's what I like about Dragon Ball Z. It's not about, oh, friends. It's, hey, Goku, come save us.
Yeah. And they're so friends, but it's not like, And then it gets like really violent after that.
And then like everyone dies multiple times because death is relevant in the entire show. And I love that show.
Death is an irrelevant aspect of Dragon Ball Z. Anyway.
Death is almost as irrelevant in Dragon Ball Z as it is in Supernatural.
Yeah, Death was perfectly relevant.
I need to watch Supernatural.
Death was relevant in the first 5 seasons of Supernatural, the only 5 seasons of that show. There are only 5 seasons of that show. In theory, they're on season number 11. But factually, there's only 5 seasons.
Yes. I mean, in theory, the additional seasons would make Death more of a revolving door, but...
Yes, exactly.
It's a good thing we don't have those seasons.
Yes. In theory, William would be correct that Death became irrelevant quite literally, because in theory, in the 10th season, they literally killed Death. And
how does that work?
It's dumb. In theory, it would be dumb. It would be stupid. No show would ever do that.
Poor Gagan.
Yeah. Luckily, they stopped after season 5. Thank God.
Yeah, it's a good thing that nobody thought it would be a good idea to keep going.
Keep continuing a series that was constantly on the brink of getting canceled.
Kind of like how they stopped Simpsons at season 10. Remember that?
Yeah, just never made more Simpsons seasons. They just made.
I realized the other day, there's more bad seasons than good ones now. It has been for a while.
Yeah. And
no.
Is still one of the
you just got to remember they went out like who's the guy who wrote Calvin and Hobbes?
Bill Watterson?
Bill Watterson. They had integrity. They decided 10 years was enough.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, even with the bad seasons, still like, no.
Simpsons there's still some good. I know, I'm just
Simpsons
being
is still absolutely
angry.
In the argument of greatest TV show ever.
Yeah, I'm still being angry Simpsons fan. Some of the new episodes are still pretty good, especially when you compare them to other stuff that Fox plays.
No.
Yeah. They are. Some are good, yeah.
I'd say calling them good is overselling it. The animation's awful.
There's some good episodes. The Eternal Sunshine one you would love. I think you would like that one.
You say this, but I also
Sunshine.
I also know you as the guy who thinks Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is not a good movie.
I haven't seen it. I told you so many times.
No, you. Oh, wait.
Oh,
so you're just being a dick?
Well, duh. You know who am I? Do you know who I am?
I guess.
That's a good point.
It's a good point. It's such a great counter. It's like, have you met me?
Yeah, Eternal Moonshine of the Simpson Mind. Watch that episode. It's 19
my fucking
season.
God.
It's a good one. You will like it.
Alright, I'll watch it. Other than that, I don't really. I mean, we already talked Devil May Cry 3 last time you were here, so.
Yeah, that game's so good. That game forever. What a good game.
Yeah. But you're going on vacation soon, so you had to behave on their video gaming.
Oh yeah. I won't be taking my 3DS or anything. I'll just be bringing my Kindle. I won't be having much time.
If you bought your
How long
3DS,
are you gone for?
Yeah.
I'm gone until the 12th of January.
Okay, so it's not like a 3-month stay or anything.
No, nothing like that. I gotta get back to work I'm already missing like a week and a half of work or something like that.
Ouch.
William.
Yes.
What did you play? Because we've already done Legacy of the Void.
I did finish Legacy of the Void. I started playing Shovel Knight, which you got me last year. That game is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm kind of ashamed of myself for waiting so long.
So while you bring up Shovel Knight, sometimes I talk to Ben and I go, what if we had fought harder for Shovel Knight to win Game of the Year and sacrificed Bayonetta 2 not winning? Because, not that Bayonetta 2 isn't great, but I really like Shovel Knight.
In hindsight, I think you made the wrong decision.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it was like, in your heart of hearts, do you really think Bayonetta 2 is an inferior game to Shovel Knight? I was like, not in a robotic, like, it's got better mechanics sort of way, no. But it speaks to my goddamn soul in a way that Bayonetta 2 doesn't. It's like, yes.
Yeah.
If it was Bayonetta 1 versus Shovel Knight, it'd be different. I'd be like, no, it's Bayonetta 1. It's great. Fuck you.
I mean, it's really like a this is how you do game design game.
Yeah, it's a little classic on so many levels.
Just like the way that it teaches you, and that there's so few mechanics, but you can do so much with them.
Mm-hmm.
And the level design, and I remember a while ago we were talking about that one guy on YouTube who goes through levels to explain how they work. And I watched one of his Shovel Knight.
Levelhead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he goes over the Propeller Knight stage.
And I was thinking, this can't possibly be the whole game. And then I started playing it, and I'm like, oh my god, it is the whole game.
Yeah, you watch that video and you go, no, it's of course. There's no way. And it's like, oh. And it's like, when you watch that video and then you're playing that game again, you realize they gave the players so many safety nets, but like clever safety nets, right?
Right.
So like they could properly frustrate them, but never like completely break their spirit necessarily.
Yeah.
And that's like a delicate balancing act a lot of games don't do.
It is, absolutely. And just the way, I don't know, almost everything about that game, like just the way it's animated, the way the music goes, like it's so good. So I've been playing that.
So good.
It's so, oh man, I would buy that soundtrack. But I've been playing that. I started playing Rogue Leader again because Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Did you go medal all of the levels yet?
I'm working on it. That's actually really hard.
Yeah, no. Whichever mission is the one with the gas balloons. I think it's the gas balloons mission.
Been working on.
Yeah, mission fucking sucks.
Yeah, that game is so good though, and I think it'll be something fun to write about, which I'm gonna do over the break. But that game is excellent, and it's
write about? You mean articles on our website?
All right, Adam, we've made this joke 17 podcasts in a row. You don't just get to come on and make it the 18th in a row, all right?
Yeah, right, I can.
I don't know. That game it's really depressing that we don't see games like that anymore. Yeah. I think, because it's not like you can beat that whole game, and I've done it in about 2 hours. I did it.
But wait, didn't Rogue Leader have the whole, you have to have a certain amount of medals to unlock the next level?
No. For the bonus stages, yes.
Oh,
For the bonus stages, yes. But even then, the levels, I mean, if you medal them, the levels are like 6 minutes apiece.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, naturally you can beat that game quick. I'm just saying, it's like, chances are you ended up replaying a lot of the older levels just to unlock the next mission. That's the way I remember it, but I think
that might be Rogue Squadron 3, because it's not in Rogue Leader.
Wouldn't it be Rogue Squadron 1 that way?
No, it's not that way.
I didn't beat Rogue Squadron 3. I was like, fuck, this is so much worse than Rogue Leader. Whereas I like Rogue Squadron 1, and I love me some Rogue Leader.
Yeah.
Shut up, I never got to play those games.
Those games are really, I mean, Rogue Squadron 1's
they're X-Wing Alliance, except not as good. But
apparently
it's still
you
pretty
can't emulate them either. I tried. Apparently that's like one of the few Dolphin can't do.
Yeah?
I don't know. All I know is just like, I wish more games were like that, because like I said, you can beat it in 2 hours, but that's not really the point of the game. The point of the game is to master it.
Yeah.
And play the missions over and over and learn all the things and get good with the ships and get the upgrades. And I just love the way it's structured. Like, if you want to play it casually, you can absolutely do that and have a lot of fun. But if you really want to dig into it, there's a lot to find.
Yeah, that arcade style of game is really only made by Platinum Games.
Then be happy.
Independent scene. What?
A new Ace Combat, a new proper Ace Combat.
I know! Ace Combat's coming back in our lives.
What that series is.
Yeah.
Ace Combat's great too. I'm just saying that we need more Star Wars Ace Combat in our lives. You know what I'm saying?
And Star Fox is around the corner. I just wish there were like a new IP or something.
No, this potential game coming out next year called Squadron 42.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, like, we've got games on the deep end, which is what Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous are, and those games where they're like pure, they're borderline flight sims on some level, and like they got the heavy exploration.
Not Citizen anymore. I can go in and rant about that, but they're much more what you're going to enjoy now.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, at the same time, like, it'd be nice if that Space Force had a little bit more range, right? Like, people love dissing the FPS, but it's like, when you look at the grand history of the FPS, not everything was Doom, not everything was military shooters, not everything was World War II shooters. We had fucking Deus Ex, we had Tribes, we had Metroid Prime, we had a fucking, what is that game called? It's a FPS, and you're, like, using magic. It's like, Hectic?
Hectic, yeah.
Or a heretic. Heretic, maybe.
It's Hexic. Hexic, that's it.
Hectic.
Yes. That game. Freaking, what else is there? The Time Splitters games. Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, when you look at the grand history of that genre, you think, oh no, there was like so much fucking range at one point. Yeah. It's only recently that genre has become a little bit more vanilla.
Right.
I don't even think it's that vanilla. You just got to look in the right places.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is that the big ones are all vanilla.
Yeah. But it's like I love the beat 'em up, but the beat 'em up is the following: God of War, and then Platinum's game will come out, and then that's it.
Are they making another God of War game?
They're making God of War 4.
You know they will. You know they will.
It's been rumored so many times, I'm almost convinced.
I'm surprised it hasn't come out yet. You think that's one of their flagships?
I mean, I would imagine it's not ready.
Isn't Jaff making another game? He's making that Drawn to Life thing?
Yeah, he's making Drawn to Life.
Shit! Speaking of beat 'em ups, what's that one? That one from Ubisoft? That MOBA / beat 'em up / multiplayer game. Shit! Hero from the. It's got the Vikings and the samurai going at it. Actually,
For Honor?
Yeah, that looks fucking awesome.
The game looks like it reminds me of Chivalry though.
Oh yeah, definitely. I see that, but I'm getting a little bit more of a beat 'em up vibe than a Chivalry.
I mean, hey, listen, I'm all for video games where we're back to hitting things with swords and weapons and punches. A little less guns, axes. Ooh, what about a mace? Huh?
Oh, you can't. That's gonna be Mountain Blade.
Some kunais with chains. Mountain Blade 2. I like the look of Mountain Blade 2. I'm looking forward to that game you were talking about, Deliverance.
That game. What game?
Well, no, sorry, Kingdom Come Deliverance. That game.
Yeah, that's gonna be. Cool. Yeah, that's gonna be a pretty cool game when it comes out. I didn't back the Kickstarter, but I've been following it because it's just a game that I'm interested in.
Steam. Funny enough, right? We badmouth Steam Early Access so much, right? Because it's fuck Steam Early Access, right? But it's sort of become like Kickstarter in its thing where it's this necessary evil that's justified itself because Kerbal Space Program, pretty fucking rad game.
Angels
Killing Floor
First.
2 is gonna be a pretty rad game. Angels Fall First, and hopefully Toxic come out and they're good. But Vermintide came out of nowhere to be like the new Left 4 Dead type game, and it's like
I have to pick that up. Hopefully, it goes on sale during this current Steam sale because that game
Wasteland
was fun.
Wasteland 2 last year was a pretty cool RPG, and then like just this year, Age of Decadence finally came out for RPG Codex to finally put their money where their mouth is. And from every understanding, every like RPG thread I've read on NeoGAF that's played it has been positive for that game. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Early access. No longer can we just instantly say fuck early access.
Enemy Starfighter.
Maybe we can. Maybe we should think about it. It's like,
So Enemy Starfighter's coming on early access soonish, and that's going to be.
Wasn't Elite Dangerous an early access game at one point?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, technically, Star Citizen is sort of that.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
It's everything right now. It's crowdfunding, early access, and AAA.
$101 million.
It's like the mega fraud.
I still think that at this point he's sipping rum and cokes or some tropical drink with our money in the South Pacific, just laughing.
I want the game to deliver though.
It will be, but I've got things I could bitch about it, but that's not for today.
Yeah, well, we sort of. Well, you made sure we could never get off that Star Wars conversation earlier, asshole.
Good God.
Star Wars is life.
I mean,
Star Wars is life.
Star Wars is love. Star Wars is life. Other than that, all right. So here's the game plan. Next Tuesday we are not recording, so we probably will not have a podcast up. This podcast is going up Friday. So Merry Christmas to anyone hearing this. Have a safe holiday. Have a Happy New Year. And then once we get back, we'll probably not have played anything other than games we should be playing to get ready for Game of the Year. So hopefully by then I have beaten The Witcher 3,
and I've played Ori.
And you've played Ori.
And I've actually played Witcher 3.
I'll just have fun on your trip. So that'll be that. Other than that, we're going to close out with One's Gotta Go. And I don't know if anyone has one, but I have one.
Are you still upset about last time?
When was the last time?
When I did the shooter one?
Yeah, we've gotten over that because we've had some new ones since then. I believe the one we did last podcast, if I'm remembering it right, is One's Gotta Stay between Cinematic Walking and Tap A to Run. Was it Tap A to Run? It was something else.
Tap A to Run. Why?
Probably one has been Tap A to Run. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, Chris made a good argument though. Is like if he keeps Tap A to Run, it only infects one set of games, Rockstar games, where Cinematic Walking is in everything. So if you get rid of it, you've saved every video game. So,
Except Rockstar.
Except Rockstar. But I don't know. The One's Gotta Go, just because we did Star Wars and because Rogue Leader came up. Ace Combat. Remember, One's Gotta Go means this thing never existed. Star Wars TIE Fighter. And Star Fox.
Goodbye, Star Fox. Hardly
Bye, Star Fox.
Yeah.
Bye, Star Fox.
Yeah,
I can't. I cannot say anything about Ace Combat.
No.
TIE Fighter is instrumental to.
TIE Fighter leads into X-Wing Alliance, so that's really where it's winning.
Yeah, it really leads into a lot of good games, and it really started off an entire generation on the PC.
Mm-hmm.
So saying no to that, I guess.
Does TIE Fighter predate Wing Commander?
No.
No, it doesn't.
I could have led with Wing Commander, but whatever.
No, but it's certainly. I mean,
I got two actually. I got another one after this to keep the Star Wars theme going, but let's get the Star Fox one in. I'm sorry. 3 episodes pro Star Fox. So William, go on. You're probably the only one that might be mildly conflicted at this point.
God, this is hard for me. I would probably say TIE Fighter, as influential as it was, and as great as that series of games was, because nobody has really done anything
like it since.
In that similar vein since then.
Mm-hmm.
Free Space 2, you can argue, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And but I think like stuff like Rogue Squadron and other things would have happened regardless. So as much of a shame as it would be to lose those things, I think Ace Combat is too important, and I like Star Fox too much. Versus these are not even my favorite Star Wars starfighting games. So.
Yeah, I mean, my thing with TIE Fighter is just raw, not even just influence. I think I love Rogue Leader, but I would argue X-Wing Alliance is a better game because X-Wing Alliance is the shit, and TIE Fighter is pretty rad. This is just weird. A Star Wars game where the fucking title, the subtitle, isn't even like the good guys ship. It's fucking TIE Fighter. You know what I mean? There's the bad guys for fucking legit. And then Star Fox, I get like the influences are limited, but it's still a really important part of gaming history was that first sort of 3D game on the SNES, right?
Right.
From my understanding. Star Fox 64 is, that game had to carry us over because after Mario 64, it was Star Fox 64, and we were like, all right, back to the drought! So shit was crazy. And then Ace Combat's fucking rad. So,
don't get rid of my Ace Combat.
I wouldn't want to do it to Wazzy, but so now let's do the Star Wars one. You ready for this?
All right.
One's got to go. One style of game has to go entirely. Star Wars Space Fighters. That means TIE Fighter, X-Wing, Rogue Squadron, all of them.
That's not. I don't think that's a good thing because the difference between TIE Fighter and Rogue Squadron might as well be a genre.
I know, but this is where we're going with Star Wars FPS games. Now you're instantly thinking Battlefront, but let us not forget
Dark Forces.
Dark Forces, and more importantly, Jedi Outcast counts in this.
Republic Commando,
and not more important than Jedi Outcast, but I'll continue. And then, of course, Star Wars RPGs, and I'm going to lump the MMOs there with them. So not just the Knights of the Old Republic games, but also, what's that game called? Star Wars Galaxies?
Yeah.
Yoda Stories.
And Tor. Those are the two.
Yeah.
I'm playing Tor now. Tor is not a bad game. It's
it's not.
It's just pretty par for the course when it comes to MMO theme parks.
That's delightful, guys. But the moral of the story is, one's gotta go, Ozzy. Who are you erasing? What?
Get rid of the FPSs.
You are fucking terrible.
You cannot not have Star Wars flying games. There's just no, they have to exist, and you have to have the ability to live out in a character of your want, and that's the RPGs in the Star Wars universe. That means Jedi, smugglers, you name it. The FPSs can just be gone, and we wouldn't have lost anything. Some key good ones, but nothing influential, nothing game-changing. Just a couple really good games that would no longer exist. But you can have Star Wars without the FPSs or action games. That's what I say.
Aljosa.
Goodbye, sweet pew pew shooting games.
William.
I gotta make it 3 for 3. I think the Jedi Outcast is an incredible game. Dark Forces is very, very good. Republic Commando is awesome. There's so many really good Star Wars shooters, but I can't imagine a world without TIE Fighter and Rogue Squadron, and Knights of the Old Republic may very well be the best Star Wars game, and it had such an impact on who BioWare became as a studio that
On negative effect, they've been lamer since.
I know, but that game is still really good.
But the idea of a Star Wars RPG to me is so much more of an opportunity.
It's like the ultimate fantasy. I agree. It is.
It's just I'd rather have that potential than not.
It's basically this. It's that. Okay, let's name the 3 fictional universes that people would probably want to be in. Or top 5. Let's just so we don't leave anyone out. And it would be things like Star Wars and Star Trek would be there. Lord of the Rings would be there. Probably one of the superhero universes, which pick either one, DC or Marvel. And I don't know what you want to put for a 5th one. Go ahead.
Probably Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Like, those are like the big pop culture.
I could see Harry Potter.
Yeah. And it's like, you get to be something in this universe. And when Star Wars Galaxy did it right? Like, I remember you couldn't be a Jedi for, like, the longest time in that game, because they made you wait.
In all reality, there's only been really one really good, like, fantastic Star Wars RPG, and a second just alright one. Those are the 2 KOTOR games.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The potential of a Star Wars RPG
it has a lot.
Yeah, well, Yoda stories, bro.
Yeah. But I will say, simply put, I don't like any of the Star Wars RPG. I mean, I didn't play the MMOs, so no disrespect intended there. But I don't like KOTOR and KOTOR 2. Jedi Outcast is the shit. Jedi Academy is dope. The multiplayer in those games is so badass. Freaking the Dark Forces games. I think that's a little crazy where you say, I'm not going to say the Dark Forces games had impact necessarily. I guess you're right. It didn't really influence other FPS games. But the Dark Forces games are a product of an era when we explored how certain things would work in a video game, be it Star Wars. Knights of the Old Republic, I've always came as like, it could have been any other RPG. Star Wars is what it really made it go, though, right?
Right.
But it wasn't exploring, like, any, like, system at some point. It was exploring the fiction, which is fine. I get people love that about it, and I agree that, at least in the case of Knights of the Old Republic, the plot's pretty good Star Wars. It's exactly what I like about Star Wars. Classic, good versus evil type stuff. Fuck KOTOR 2. But at the end of the day,
amazing, yeah.
How dare you?
You knew that was coming when I asked this question. But I'm not getting rid of Jedi Outcast. I'm not getting rid of the Dark Forces games. And I don't have the affinity for Battlefront or fucking, I do like Republic. I think I like the idea of me liking Republic Commando a lot. I bet if I go back, I'll be like, alright, maybe it wasn't that good.
It hasn't aged. I've tried to play it recently. It hasn't aged that well.
Oh, what a cool concept.
They're making a Star Wars Arma 3 mod, which could be just amazing if done right. Because, come on.
And then, again, I think if I was going to make an argument for the best Star Wars game, it would either be X-Wing Alliance or I really like me some Rogue Leader, so...
You can't have a Star Wars video game and not have space battles, so by that alone, so cannot get rid of
the RPGs.
Yeah, scratch my vote out, yo. I haven't played any of these games besides KOTOR 2, yo.
Yeah, but like in your case, it was as simple as you'd probably rather play a flying game than a shooter, FPS.
No, I play a shooter rather than those flying games.
You are history's greatest monster. Anyway.
You,
Yeah, there was only 2 of the answers are technically correct. One of the answers is like, fuck you. That is a bad answer. The flying one is the bad answer. It's like, no, that's terrible. The RPGs don't deserve this. Anyway. Thank you for listening and tolerating probably one of our more bloated podcasts so we could get our Star Wars fandom out of our system. At some point we need to talk about Star Citizen again.
Yeah.
Maybe when that game comes out.
Probably
then. So then we'll never talk about it again. That's fine.
I don't know. Just because there's a lot of different ways that conversation can go. Otherwise, we told you we will not probably have a podcast for next week, but when we are back, we will have a podcast. It'll probably be a busy week because we'll also probably do the Game of the Year stuff. Other than that, enjoy the new year. Gents, next time we do a podcast, it'll be 2016.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
I'm getting old.
Yeah, no. I'm going to turn 28 this year. Fuck.
Me too. I'm not looking forward to that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
On that depressing note.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super depressing.
RIP everyone turning 28.
Damn, you old as fuck.
Fuck you. Anyway, we're out.
Peace.
Sweet. All right, that's done.